Welcome to the show. A beautiful night in South Bend, as if that matters, but it's like finally we got like a real spring-looking day here in South Bend today. He's Jesse Stiers. I'm Sean Stiers. You doing good there, Cleveland?
Yeah, I'm doing great actually. It's beautiful outside. I'm gonna take my dog for a walk and pick up my new bike.
Did you used to watch the Drew Carey show with me back in the day? Do you remember?
I don't think so.
Do they play the Cleveland Rock song there, like at any, like whether it's Cavaliers or Guardians,
Guardians
or do they?
at every
Okay.
Guardian game.
All right. I heard someone on the radio playing that the other, like one of the morning shows was playing it a couple of weeks ago, and it just stuck in my head for some reason. The Cleveland Rocks, and I think it was by like Presidents of the United States of America was the band that did it. But okay, random. That doesn't really matter. We got a lot of stuff to get to today. We've got Notre Dame baseball player Brooks Coetzee coming up with us here in a little bit. He'll we talked about a lot of different stuff. So we've had a lot of different people asking about Notre Dame baseball, especially since football is over and everything. So a lot of great stuff with Brooks Coetzee, who, by the way, is on pace to become the single season hit by pitch leader in Notre Dame history. And we do talk about that. We actually recorded the interview yesterday because he couldn't be two places at once. They're actually taking the field as we speak against North Carolina State right now under this beautiful weather over at X Stadium. So talked about the College World Series, the hit by pitch thing, link Jarrett, all kinds of stuff. So we'll be hearing from Notre Dame outfielder Brooks Coetzee in a little bit.
Gonna pass potentially Brett Lilly, right? Like that's who's ahead of him.
Yep. Brett Lilly still the career leader, but Coetzee has a chance to become the single season. But Lilly is single season and career. Coetzee has a chance to pass up the single season. He has 26. I think the record is 31, if I'm not mistaken. I looked it up the other day in the media guide. So he's on pace. Like he said, like early in the season, he was on pace to get like 50 hit by pitch or something. Like he was hit by pitch 4 times in one game. The final one was with the bases loaded with the score tied 9-9, and it gave Notre Dame the game-winning RBI. And we talk about that as well. There's literally like not much we didn't talk about. So you want to catch it. We're going to do a rapid fire first. Before we get to that, Notre Dame women's basketball. This is something else people have kind of been asking about. When are they going to sign a forward? Well, they did today. They got a grad transfer, Becky Obinma, from Pepperdine. She started her career at TCU, played the last 2 years at Pepperdine. Actually only played one season. She sat out during the COVID season, played just one season, and actually 2 seasons. I'm sorry. She played one season, I believe, at TCU. But in any case, 3 seasons total she has played. But she averaged 6.5 points, 6.5 rebounds in 28 games last season. She has blocked 63 shots the last 2 seasons. So good for Notre Dame. They add another forward, and now with Obinma and the incoming freshman plus the other grad transfer they added from Fordham, they now have 12 scholarship players on the roster for next season, including 4 forwards. So I think they're pretty much set. This should do it right there. DT Roll Hunter asking, who wins in horse, Sean or Jesse? That's something we haven't done in a long time, but I would give it to Jesse, I would say.
When's the last time you ever shot a basketball?
I am not a marksman. Yeah, it's been a while, too. I was known back in my day for a guy who, was not much of a baller. Like my spot was, I was a corner 3 guy. I was known, I would just camp out down in the corner, and I would probably hit, a good 35, 36%, from down in the corner.
Very
So,
specific percentage.
yeah, I'm just guessing, one out of every three or so. There was one time they had the intramural. This is, back in the Army days, they had the intramural, our company had the intramural team, and they were all in a panic because they only had four guys, and so someone ran over to the barracks to get me. It's like, you want me? And they literally like, your spot's the corner. Just stay in the corner, take your threes. I'm like, all right. Did hit one in my one and only intramural.
Nice.
So that's right. All right, well, let's jump into it. Some football topics to begin us off, as always, on today's show. If Sam Hartman passes for a little over 2,800 yards this season, he'll have the fourth most passing yards in FBS history. And if he passes for a little over 4,100 yards, he'll have the second most yardage ever. He's also 45 touchdown passes shy of the all-time record. So, do you buy or sell an asterisk for Sam Hartman if he achieves either of those milestones this season, considering this is going to be his sixth season of eligibility?
I don't think that there should be an asterisk at the end of them. And I've thought about this before, but the main conclusion I'm coming to comes from the fact that I look at this, like the NFL. Cooper Kupp set a record. I can't remember what it was, touchdown receiving yards not too long ago, but he accomplished it during the playoffs. And so to me, it's always been, some guys aren't fortunate enough to make the playoffs. And so you get technically extra games to set, single season records. And so to me, that kind of follows along the same page of, it's no one's fault that Sam Hartman got extra games, whatever it might be for an extra year of eligibility, etc. So I don't really buy the fact that there should be an asterisk next to him. As long as you are doing it within your playing time in your college career, I'm completely fine with it because the game is always going to be evolving. And obviously, that back in the day, they didn't pass as much as they used to. So are we supposed to put asterisks next to those numbers just because of how the game was played? But again, that's kind of how my thought processes went.
I get what you're saying, and I disagree. And that's why I asked this question. I didn't know how you would feel about this. I knew how I felt about it. I just feel like I get, again, I get what you're saying, like the thing with Cooper Kupp and anyone in the NFL right now, all these records are going to be broken because they've added an extra game. And there's a chance they're going to add another extra game to the regular season. But everybody gets that. Like with Sam Hartman, this is an entire extra season that's been added. Now, his freshman year, he didn't play a full season, but he played some games, right? And so my point is, I think everyone across the board in every sport, whether it's like wins for a wrestler or, like national championships or, passing yards, scoring, 3-pointers made, assists, whatever. If you get a fifth season and you're breaking these records, like there's only so many people who are going to get this fifth season. This is not a blanket, like forever, everyone else is going to get it. Like in the NFL going forward, they're all going to play at least 17 game schedules, but you're not going to get a full extra season as a result. So that's why I think he needs an asterisk, because odds are he sets this record. And I think like the passing yardage, he couldn't get to number one. Again, it's going to take quite a bit just to get to number two, but the touchdown passes, there's a realistic chance with 45 touchdown passes, depending on the season. That's still obviously a big season, but guys are throwing for 40 plus all the time these days. So I just think these players, again, regardless of sport, that have gotten this fifth year of eligibility and get to play for a full extra season, they're breaking records. There needs to be some kind of asterisk there, because it's like, I think, what is it? I think this year's senior class is going to be the final class that gets, like that fifth year of eligibility. I think if I've got my numbers right. So after that, nobody's going to get it again. So I do think that there should be asterisks next to them if they're out there breaking records, especially if they end up number one on the list, because no one's ever going to be able to break it if you don't have that extra year.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying too.
By the way, hit the like button if you would. Help out the Irish Breakdown channel. We, of course, do appreciate it. And subscribe, rate, and review on your podcast platforms. So, college football teams are not generally in the position to retire jersey numbers. My question is, you got a player like Michael Mayer, right? Would you buy or sell making Mayer's 87 jersey number unavailable for at least 1 year after he's gone? To kind of recognize the fact that this was, a great outgoing player, and not just Michael Mayer, but anyone along that, along those lines, along that caliber on a football team.
To me, with the roster size in college sports, specifically football, and already have guys that wear duplicate numbers because of offense, defense, I would say no. And along with the fact of if it's not going to last forever, I don't think that it's just really not worth it in the end. I think
it doesn't matter.
No, I think that the accolades, the All-Americans, the Heismans, that kind of stuff is what kind of establishes your legacy more so than the retirement of a number for just a couple of seasons. The reason I say that is because 10 years down the road, no one's going to remember 10 years ago that Michael Mayer's number was unavailable for a season or two. But like in the NFL and other professional sports, when a number is retired, it's retired forever. And people know why it's retired forever. I just think it ultimately wouldn't accomplish much because I think people would forget about it, down the road, essentially. And like I said, I think the accolades kind of speak for themselves in terms of legacy within, universities and programs.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. As soon as they came up with this, just what you said, because it's college, it's tough. You could at least try to say, well, on the, whatever side of the ball they played on. Again, we're using Michael Mayer as the example because he's the school's, the record-setting, the best tight end in program history without an extra season of eligibility, by the way. We did it in just 3 years. But, so my point was like maybe – for the offensive side, you're able to do it, even if a defensive number or player is wearing number 87. It would be difficult because you have 85 scholarships and you've got the walk-ons and everyone's got to have numbers. And like you said, a lot of times you get duplicates. It'd be at least worth it to give it a shot. Like if you could, like look at the Dallas Cowboys. Now this is same but different, but like. Deuce Vaughn, who just got drafted by K-State, the whole emotional video with the dad and the scout and all that stuff. He wore 22 in college. He's not going to get to wear 22 in Dallas because even though I don't think they've technically retired Emmitt Smith's jersey, like you've got to be, thought of as something pretty special to wear,
especially as a
22.
running back.
Right, yeah, as a running back, but it's like 88. The 88s they passed that down. Like CeeDee Lamb got to wear it because they thought he was going to be a great receiver. So Vaughn is going to wear 42 instead. And that's just kind of the same thing to kind of honor, the fact that you've got somebody great there.
So I would be more like an alternative for me is I like the idea of honoring them in some way. I would go more so of like a ring of honor, like a guy's being inducted into some sort of like ring of honor that is like an exclusive club that's not, it's hard to get into. You have to meet certain, achievements, requirements, etc. to get into a ring of honor. But that to me would be a more recognizable way because I just think it would last more long term. Like it would be more of a legacy thing. Like people 50 years from now could come visit Notre Dame and see, someone like Michael Mayer's name or maybe jersey or, banner hanging up in some sort of ring of honor. And then that would be more permanent. You'd have, you could go back and know why he's there essentially.
Right. And that's, again, it's much tougher in college. You can't start obviously. And we didn't say retire the jersey number. I just said make it unavailable for 1 season. But you can't retire jersey numbers in college just because the fact that you do have so many guys. It's impossible to do something like that. Hunter said make the number an earned number, kind of like how Michigan does with number 97. You remember how who's the quarterback? Do you remember that a few years back? The chicken dance quarterback. Denard Robinson.
Denard.
Is that who it was? Yeah.
Denard. I was getting hung up on the name Denard, and I was like, "What is his last name?" That's right. Yeah, and he wore
but there's some other good points.
97 as quarterback.
Yeah, that's right. You could make it part of an NIL kind of thing. Tommy said, ND lets everything else be sponsored. Let Mayer sponsor his jersey. That would be an interesting way to do it.
The Michael Mayer jersey.
Yeah. Now you get the Michael Mayer jersey. So Chris Fink tweeted recently that
I like that idea, actually. Sorry, not to cut you off, but it's like you could almost do, some sort of like legacy number. Like you are wearing the Michael Mayer number, essentially. So not more so retiring the number, but creating kind of a legacy out of it. Like you are, it's kind of like what, like you were talking about what the Cowboys do with 88. You are a, primetime wide receiver. We believe you to be the next kind of person to carry on the legacy at Notre Dame at that position. And so therefore you get to wear the number 87.
Yeah, that would be an interesting way to go as well. Yeah, like going forward, the 87 jersey is always the Michael Mayer legacy jersey.
Right.
Until someone else surpasses him at some point. But, because he's the greatest tight end right now, statistically in Notre Dame history. So, yeah, that would be an interesting way to do it as well. So Chris Fink tweeted recently that transfer portal players should play their own spring game with coaches from recently fired coaching staffs, coaching them in the game, and then broadcast that game in prime time. You buy or sell the idea, Jess?
I actually buy this idea because to me, it could be like a portal showcase, right? Like you could these guys are transferring for a reason. They probably haven't gotten too much significant playing time. So what you do is you get them together, you find coaches that have no affiliations to the current college game. And, you maybe get together for some practices for a month or so, or, a couple of weeks, whatever it might be. And then you go out there and play. It's almost like I said, it's almost like in a camp or a showcase that you often see a lot of high school players go to. But at this point, it's the college players who are trying to find a new home. And I think it would be awesome as fans to see some of these names that you hear about that you maybe haven't even got the chance to see play. So I think a lot of people would tune in, and I think it would be actually, I just think it's a terrific idea overall.
I think it's a big buy for me as well. Like, think of where we are in the calendar right now. The NFL draft just ended last week, so you could do it basically like they do the Senior Bowl. Spend a week in whatever location, and the coaches are working with them just like that. And I mean, how many former Colorado players would love to have the opportunity to get out in front of other coaches?
Well, especially when you see these kind of one of the kids from Colorado was talking about how it was unfair that Deion wouldn't release game film. Yeah. And that solves the issue. That it is live and it is your most current version of yourself, right? Like there's nothing else than seeing your playing live in the moment as you're in the transfer portal, because there's no discrepancies of what your skill set is and how it would translate to wherever potentially you might end up.
And from a college football standpoint, I think it would be good for college football to be able to put on an event like this, and wherever the coaches come from. But I think the fired coaching staff, at least like you would want coaches who maybe are not affiliated with current programs, because that gives them a leg up in recruiting these kids, by being there with them for a week. And obviously not everyone is going to do it. There's some guys who have already committed someplace, like Tyler Buckner, obviously, for example, like they've already committed, already signed someplace. And so not everyone has to do it, but guys who want to, get them out there and do some kind of event like this, I think would be a great idea. In fact, I think next week we might do a show, not completely along these lines, but like some things sort of like how college football can like the NFL has like this year-round calendar, basically. How college football can kind of spread out its calendar and kind of grab some of the off season in ways that they are not able to do right now that the NFL is able to. Because like the NFL has the schedule release coming up next week, for example. The Transfer Portal Bowl, says Anthony. I love it. I think it's a great idea. Good idea, Chris Fink. So Haley Van Lith has an NIL deal with Adidas. But of course, she transferred from Louisville to LSU, which is a Nike school. And so now she's not going to be allowed to wear her Adidas shoes, even though she has an NIL deal with Adidas. So, my question to you, should athletes like this be allowed to wear their shoe brand of their choice, during games, given the current NIL landscape?
I don't think so. I think once you sign an NIL deal, specifically when it comes to brands like Nike, Adidas, Puma, New Balance, whatever it might be, I think you are obligated to wear their brand on the court. They're giving you, some sort of, I guess, compensation is the best way to put it, for being affiliated with their brand. And so I don't think that, again, I in the in-game situations are the most critical spots. We don't see Haley doing stuff outside of maybe like her Instagram or Twitter and posting ads and stuff here and there, but like you don't see we don't the main reason we see her is when she's playing basketball. And so I think it would be a disservice to whatever company if she's wearing a different, brand on court. And I understand there's
But
preference when it comes to comfortability, and safety and that kind of stuff and overall just preference. But I guess my thing is if that's the case, then you maybe explore, an NIL deal that more aligns with, what you're looking to wear and do essentially.
yeah, because I mean, you can argue, well, she's not getting, since she has an NIL deal with Adidas, it's not like she's getting a cut from Nike since the Adidas deal is already in place. But at the same time, these apparel deals with the school, even though not every player might be getting direct compensation, they are benefiting from the fact, because those are obviously multi-million-dollar deals that go into the athletic programs and
Right.
everything else, that help support their athletic program. So I agree. Like, she can do whatever she wants on her social media platforms, or even go out and do commercials for Adidas or whatever it happens to be. But when she's on the floor for whatever school, whoever it happens to be, when they're on the floor for whatever school, you got to wear what the school wants you to wear, essentially.
Well, it's such a small percentage of the time, right? Like think about the time spent on court is 40 minutes. Is it 40 minutes or 30?
40.
40
40.
minutes. That's what I thought. I mean, that's 40 minutes, maybe 2 or 3 times a week at most for, 5 months out of the season. The majority of your time off the court is when you're going to get most of your, I feel like, branding and sponsoring done. So, yeah, I just feel like you kind of make a commitment to whoever's, basically giving you the money. It's like, it'd be like me being like, as an engineer going to a rivaling engineering firm and kind of being like, hey, I'll do some side work for you guys, on the
Right.
side. It's kind of how I look at it too.
Yeah. What about when, like, the travel outfits and stuff, like, because now, like, all the school social media, like
Oh
at
yeah, I
practice
think
or
that's
travel,
different.
like,
I think on travel you should be able to. That's
good
more of
with
a
that
comfort
wherever
thing.
you.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's more. You're not. You're not on national live television playing. An actual sport. You're on your own time. You're traveling. You're whatever. Whatever's kind of comfortable for you. Or I know me personally. I like to match shoes with different kind of outfits and stuff like that. So I'm
Yes,
sure
you
that
do.
that would be the aim for someone like her as well.
Yes, you do. All right. Crazy news today out of Alabama. The the Crimson Tide fired baseball coach Brad Bohannon today after suspicious wagering was detected on an Alabama LSU baseball game last weekend. The alleged activity took place last Friday at an Ohio sportsbook at Great American Ballpark, sportsbook at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, which prompted the state of Ohio, to halt all bets on college baseball games that involved Alabama. The investigation is centered on two bets on the Tigers, on LSU to win against Alabama from the same unidentified customer. This is, unidentified to the public anyway. But at the same time, Bohannon, Alabama baseball coach, fired for, among other things, violating the standards, duties, and responsibilities expected of University of Alabama employees. So this is crazy. This is like the first time, since all this sports wagering became legal. This is the first time that I have heard of anything like this, where like a major college head coach is being fired for, even though they're not specifying, placing bets on his own team to lose, is what the whole thing sounds like.
It's so coincidental because Cincinnati is home of Pete Rose, obviously, and that's ultimately is what is preventing him from being in the Baseball Hall of Fame right now. And it's just my overall thoughts are, it's just like, dude, what are you doing? You are a Division I baseball coach. You are probably living your dream. You're probably compensated fairly well. What are you doing betting on your own team to lose? Like, there's just no logical situation or world to me where that makes sense. It's just pure idiot, stupidity. And another thing to me is like, how did you not think that you would get caught? Because the NFL has made it very, I guess, obvious that they can find out who it is. And so that translates to just any other, professional or amateur, college essentially.
But how did he get
sporting venue?
Someone had to have placed the bets for him, though, for the bets to have been made. If they were physically
that's what I was thinking.
In Cincinnati.
How did he get to Cincinnati? Because there's no way. I was like, LSU and Alabama, there's no route that goes through Cincinnati. So who is he having, placed those bets for him? And again, like, how are you just betting on your own team to blatantly lose? Like, it's just like you can easily, as a manager, make decisions to impact the game where you can lose. Like, it's such a sticky situation. Again, I go back to the fact that the NFL has made it obvious that there's going to be a zero tolerance policy. And it's like, after seeing the examples that were made out of, those players that have gotten season-long suspensions, half-season suspensions, what did you think was going to happen to you yourself as the head coach of a college program?
Exactly. And the difference is, as Jason pointed out, is that Pete never bet on his team to lose. He was at least betting on his team to win. But, like, Alabama was losing this game fairly handily, and they came back. I think they ended up losing 8-6, but LSU was heavily favored to win. Which, like, did you even know that you could wager on college baseball on any of these sports apps? Have you ever seen college
it before,
baseball?
But I don't usually mess with it because college sports are there's too much discrepancy as is, and then you start talking about college baseball, it's like you can barely bet on professional sports, let alone college baseball.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I saw this. And so now you've got the head coach of a Power 5 college baseball program fired for apparently, allegedly betting on his own team to lose. Again, it's like, I don't think I've heard of anything like this before.
It's just hearing it, it's just like so stupid. Like, hearing someone say that, it's like, really? They just sound something so childlike.
I know. Takes some cojones, I think, to do it.
Yeah.
And he might have had the brass cojones, but it didn't pay off for him in the long run. So, speaking of betting on baseball, if you are going to bet against one Major League Baseball team in every game for the rest of the season, with the idea of making the most money at the end of the season, which team would you pick to bet against? Major League Baseball.
So I remember reading something earlier, a couple months ago, about basically there is a team that has been non-profitable like the last 15 years or something, 10 years, basically saying if you bet on them to, money line every game, win or loss, I can't remember which side it was, you would essentially be profitable every year. So I can't remember what that data was, but for the team following that same concept this year, it would have to be the Oakland A's. They are very bad, and they know that they're bad. Their fans know that they're bad. They're getting ready to move stadiums and everything. I would definitely go with the Oakland A's, and I would go with them to lose every game because I think they're going to clear 100 losses pretty easily this year.
You think they will? They just, I know they stink right now.
The A's, Mets, and Cardinals all stink right now.
But they're like, the A's are one of those teams that always seem to find some form in the middle of the summer, no matter how bad it starts off early on. It's so
the thing is they don't have anyone there that's like, usually they have a guy or two that's still like star, quality that can kind of help them turn it around, but it just doesn't feel like they have anyone that year.
Yeah. DJ, with the Oakland A's or the Kansas City Royals. And I'll tell you what, the Royals, White Sox, and A's, those are the three worst ERAs in baseball right now. And the A's are last at 7.45. The Royals aren't much better. And I tell you what, like I thought of this question and I was like, do I give this a try on my Royals today? The Royals have also scored the third fewest runs, and they've got the second worst team OPS in baseball. And then I don't know if you saw what happened today. The Royals were losing by 7 runs. They come back. They have a brief lead in the 8th inning, and then they end up, I don't know what they ended up losing by, but they were down by, it was like 13-9 in the 9th inning. I think, right before the show was starting. So I'm shocked that they are as bad as they are because they've got all these young first-round draft pick pitchers that were kind of supposed to be rounding into form by now. But unfortunately, like Brady Singer and some of those kind of guys, the pitchers. But unfortunately, that might be where I would put it down right now is on and we're talking about to lose the rest of the year. I saw Tommy originally said the Rays. They're doing fairly well still.
You could bet on them to win every game, though. I guess I think that would be the opposite side.
Yeah, I would bet on the Rays to win. I would bet on the Royals or the A's. I feel like the A's are bound to turn a corner at some point.
I think another one that I would look at is the over at Coors Field just about every day, especially in the heat of the summer with the wind blowing out a lot of times. The ball is naturally going to carry. So I would look at kind of, a lot of overs at Coors Field. But you brought up the, did you see the Royals today? I am so deranged and mad at baseball right now because the Cubs have lost 3 of 4 against the Nationals and 2 of 3 against the Marlins, all while the Pirates and Brewers also got swept in their latest series. So they could have made up some early ground. I know it's still early, but they could have made up some early ground here in the season. But they themselves lost to some bad teams, really. And today was really frustrating too because they were down 3-0, got it tied 3-3, and then going into the 9th, they get guys on 2nd and 3rd with no outs, and then get back-to-back strikeouts. All you need is a fly ball for a guy to tag up, get back-to-back strikeouts, and then a pop out to end the inning, and then bottom of the 9th, first pitch, walk-off home run. So that was brutal, very frustrating with the Cubs right now.
Yes,
especially with my season-long bet that is I'm now for the first time this season off pace because they are under 500.
Yeah, they're under 500 right now, but it's baseball. They were bound to hit a rough patch at some point.
Yeah, And I think Hosmer's gonna get let go of soon. I think they're gonna. To me, it's just like how have they not called up Christian Morel yet? The guy's leading the minors with just about every stat.
They're calling him up. They're calling him up. They announced, or Jeff Passan reported they're calling him up today. He's going to be with them tomorrow.
Him and Mervis. I saw Mervis was getting called up. Mervis,
the first baseman. That's who I'm talking about.
Yeah, Mervis got called up, but still, it's like how is he getting called up? But no Morel. Morel is crushing like 12 home runs, double-digit doubles, like an extraordinary batting average. And it's like I just don't understand how they're not calling him up. But yeah, with Mervis coming up, I'm pretty sure Hosmer is going to get DFA'd pretty soon because the only reason they picked him up is the Padres are paying his salary and they just have to pay him the minimum. And so really he's just like an extra bonus essentially.
I told you when they got him that was like nothing to be excited about.
All you lose is what you lose though is a Golden Glove defensively, but I would take more offensive production, I think, especially at a position like first base.
Yep, exactly. Snoop Dogg is in on a bid to buy the Ottawa Senators. My question to you, if you could own a professional sports team, what sport are you choosing?
I would own an English Premier Soccer team is what I would go with. Yeah.
Why?
I think that soccer is the most popular sport internationally within the whole world. And I think it generates a lot of money. Plus, I could travel a lot to, different countries within Europe. So that's another thing that I factored into it is being able to be immersed in a culture and a sport that I really haven't gotten the opportunity to. And I think that would be really fun and pay out really well at the end of the day.
Yes, Derek, I think you might be right. He just might be on the wacky stuff.
And I couldn't do something like like obviously people be like, oh, Cowboys, and it's like I can never be affiliated with a team that I have a passion for because I
Well,
would
if
be
you owned them,
clouded by biasy.
but if you owned them, you would develop a bias for them because of and a passion for them
Well,
because you own them. You've got a stake in their outcomes every day.
yeah, but it'd be too much of a conflict of interest for me. I
I
couldn't be
would
able
go
to
with
set it
baseball.
aside.
I would go with baseball. You get to be there pretty much every day. You're outside most of the time, good weather at the ballpark, hang out at the ballpark, outdoors, or in the suite, whatever, as much as you want. It would be baseball for me, for sure. Premier League. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know.
You never were expecting that, were you?
No, I was not expecting that at all. And like Derek said, you want to be like Ryan Reynolds, go out there with him and Rob McElhaney owning Wrexham. Have you paid attention at all to that Wrexham stuff? Have you ever watched Wrexham, or did you
No, but
watch
I
any
heard
of the
it's
Hulu
good.
series? Yeah, the Welcome to Wrexham. I saw some of the first season a couple months ago on the Hulu series. It was pretty good, and it's pretty cool what they've been able to do because that was like they were in the lowest of low leagues, and they're like, I didn't realize how many leagues there are over there.
Yeah, you
You
can
know
get
that
relegated.
Yeah, and they've been relegated for a long time, but they've been promoted now the last couple of years. So good for them. All right, well, that's going to do it for our rapid fire portion of the show today. Got a little Notre Dame baseball coming up. Jess, good talking to you. I'll cut you loose because, again, I pre recorded this interview with Brooks Coetzee. So go do your thing. Get your mountain bike and get out there and get biking in Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the new bike, and then I got to get Henry out here on a walk. He's been giving me the sad eyes all week, but
Uh-oh.
it's been so rainy and gross out, so I feel bad. I got to get him a couple miles in with him here soon.
All right. Sounds good. We'll enjoy that. I'll talk to you later.
See ya.
Tomorrow. All right.
Yeah, I'll
Sounds
see
good.
everyone tomorrow.
Yep. All right. So Notre Dame baseball trying to get things rolling once again after going to the College World Series last year. And of course, they lost their head coach after going to the College World Series. Jarrett went to Florida State. The Fighting Irish hosted Jarrett and Florida State last weekend, and they took 2 out of 3 games from him. And a guy who's back for his 5th season with the Fighting Irish, and a big part of that College World Series team last year, as well as the Super Regional team the year before that against Mississippi State, was Brooks Coetzee, and we'll hear from him right now. All right. Well, Notre Dame baseball, of course, had a historic season last year. They ended a 20-year College World Series drought, made it to Omaha for the first time since 2002, and one of the key cogs on that team is with us right now. Brooks Coetzee from the Fighting Irish baseball team is a graduate student now. How you doing today, Brooks?
I'm doing all right. As I mentioned earlier, just finished up last classes ever.
Can't beat that. That means final exams are on the way. So good luck on that, I guess.
Thank
First
you.
of all, just around the corner. But yeah, let's start with Omaha, I guess. It's been nearly a year now since you guys were out there at the College World Series. So as you kind of reflect back on it right now, what are maybe some of the standout things that come to mind first for you?
In regards to Omaha last year and the team that we have this year, it's the intensity that we still have. It's the expectation to win. And I think we were kind of trying to find our identity, and Coach Stifler mentioned that we were kind of a team with a new coaching staff trying to find the identity. But I think we've kind of started to fit into roles and starting to find our identity as of late.
How does that, that's obviously a transition. And of course, Jarrett, your head coach from a year ago, left after the College World Series. You get a new head coach. So I imagine you've still got kind of like some of the gleam from that trip to the College World Series in your eyes and in your heart and all that kind of stuff. So what are maybe that initial transition. What's that like for a team that just had the experience that you guys experienced last year?
I think the key thing is the experience that the guys bring back, because we're bringing back three guys that were key parts to that trip, and knowing what it takes and working along with the coaching staff and giving our input. They also know what it takes, and I think that's kind of the big things, is just working together as a unit.
You kind of deflected there a little bit when I asked you about the College World Series. Do you sort of compartmentalize that now? Like, do you get not too caught up in sort of the nostalgia of that whole thing now? Because obviously you do have sort of a mission that you're on here, right now at the end of what's a 5-year college baseball career.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it. It happened in the past. It's a memory. It's what happened last year. It happened last year. The baseball world doesn't owe us anything to make it back to Omaha. We have to earn that right. And just because we went last year doesn't mean anything.
Well, I think when you look at what you did 2 years ago, for starters, like you're on the verge, you're 1 win away from going to the College World Series. You're down there in Starkville, Mississippi against Mississippi State, and they end up, winning the national championship. They get there. And again, you guys are 1 win away from being there yourselves. What was that like, kind of being home, seeing them go on to accomplish what they accomplished, and how does that motivate you then going into the following season? And then you can kind of roll that into this year as well, the motivation that you have coming out of the experience that you had.
Yeah, that super regional at Starkville was one of a kind, and I think I've been blessed to play at some of the best spots in college baseball, but just that year, coming up a game short, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't even turn on the College World Series, and I think a lot of us did.
I bet
it left a bad taste in our mouth, and then coming up short at the World Series, finally getting to that stage, it's kind of trying to hit that next point, and kind of the next point for us and the expectations for us is to win it all. And I think that's kind of how we've grown as a program and as a unit, is just trying to check those boxes and trying to get to the next step in Notre Dame baseball.
How much does it, like when you're coming off either one of those experiences, Starkville 2 years ago or College World Series last year, when you get back on campus that next fall, I have to imagine that just like the way you approach those first workouts have to be different maybe than even the year before. Was it a lot different, coming off those experiences?
Yeah, and with those experiences too, you're throwing a coaching change in there, and I think a lot of guys are trying to prove themselves, trying to be a part of a team that makes it to that point. And like I said, it's just that hunger and bad taste in your mouth that never really goes away. And I think everybody's trying to work hard, and so you never have to get that experience again.
I haven't had the experience of being to either Starkville or Knoxville. And of course, Knoxville is where you guys beat Tennessee in the Super Regional last year to get to Omaha. Like Starkville just seems like I've heard, from like from the old guard, like the 2002 crew who was there in their regionals before that, just the environment down there. And it sounds like both of those environments are just like nothing that you could really ever imagine in college baseball. How would you compare the two?
Well, they call it Stark Vegas for a reason. That place,
right?
That place is one of a kind, and I was playing right field in both spots, and Starkville gave me the hardest time out of both of those, because
really
they had fat heads of me and my girlfriend with Tanner Allen's face over my face, and it was college baseball as it should be. And Tennessee, it was very passionate fans who really get behind their team, and haven't really had a program like that in a while, so they were excited for that opportunity. But I think Carter Putz got the butt of that, the worst of that experience. But Starkville, I think, was the highest attendance in regional or super regional history.
I think so, yeah.
Cowbells constantly, and it was just deafening. And I think out of those two experiences, from an atmosphere standpoint, Starkville is probably number one, but being able to beat a team on their home field being the number one overall team, the favorites. I think that kind of plays a little bit of bias in there for me.
That's what, like, again, hearing some of those old tales from the old guys about going to Starkville and Mississippi State, it seems like the experience you experience with the fans is, pretty. There's a common thread throughout the years, but at the same time, it sounds like they kind of have some, like you said, the bobbleheads or the blown up heads of you and your girlfriend and stuff like that. It seems like they have some fun with it anyway, as much as they might be on you during the game.
Yeah. And if it's going well for them too, it's a little less vulgar, but if it's going bad for them,
right,
you can't hide it. You can't ignore it, but it's college kids going at it.
I'm curious that, when you guys won the Super Regional in Knoxville last year, I talked to Paul Maneri afterwards, of course, the head coach of the 2002 team, and he talked about how seeing that banner that you guys, their 2002 banner that you guys were waving around out there, really got him emotional seeing that. And I remember asking Link Jarrett sort of like, what's, like how the banner got there, where the banner had been, all these different things. And he didn't really know, so do you know who brought the banner and like where, who had it before that trip to Knoxville? Any of that backstory with the banner?
I honestly don't know how it ended up there, but I do remember it was always I think it's been passed down generation to generation, because I remember seeing it on campus my freshman year, then sophomore year, just at the older guys' apartments and stuff like that. So it's always been around the baseball like family, but who packed it and who got remembered to bring it, I'm still out of the loop on that.
That's still top secret. That's what like some of the guys had said, that they had heard that, like someone found it in storage at some point, maybe a few years after they had stopped flying it over X Stadium. And, like there's always, I think like a senior group of guys, 4 or 5 guys live together, and they thought maybe the seniors had, the senior house had passed it along. But
I think so.
Yeah. I don't know how much of that is like, wives' tale or what's truth, what's fiction.
I think it's one of those rumors. The less you know, the more interesting, I guess. So.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, you are now, you mentioned that you're part of a group of experience, and you're a graduate student. You're getting ready to finish your 5th year here at Notre Dame, and Carter Putz, Zach Preisner, and Zach Siska, part of that group as well of 5th year guys who decided to come back. What made you decide to come back for one more year?
I think for me, ultimately, Notre Dame played a big part of that, getting another degree from a university like this. And from the baseball side of things, we as a group felt that it was kind of like unfinished business. And college baseball is a grind, and you want to go through that grind with people that you love and people who you're close with. And us as a group have been through the ringer. We've been through 3 coaching changes. We've been through below 500 seasons, trip to the World Series. I don't know if you want to go to war with anybody else. And I think that was a big part for most of us.
Did you ever, some of your teammates did the transfer portal after the offseason, did you ever think about that, finishing someplace else, or was it always Notre Dame or nothing?
I was going to finish my baseball journey here. I didn't even look at the portal, didn't even think about the portal. I wanted to have all my 5 years here.
We talked about Link Jarrett in the coaching change, and of course you guys faced him for the first time last weekend. He's of course the head coach at his alma mater, Florida State now, and you guys took 2 out of 3 games in that series last weekend. What was that like, seeing him on the other side for the first time after 3 years here?
I mean, it was unique. It's the first time I've been in that situation, and just seeing him over there, and we bought in so heavy to his culture and the way he went about playing baseball, and we kind of knew what to expect from that standpoint, because we knew that he was going to try to do that with Florida State. And just hearing the verbiage again and the stuff that he would be screaming from the dugout, we knew what he was trying to do, and nothing was really going to surprise us from that standpoint. But it was kind of, I don't know, it wasn't good memories came up when you see somebody like that across the dugout. And because,
Sure.
like I said, college baseball is a grind, and that was somebody that was with you on that grind. So it wasn't bad blood, wasn't anything like that. It was good to see him, and it was wish him nothing but the best of luck.
It's interesting because talking to him in his time here, he always talked about, especially in the, those early days when he first took over, about teaching you guys a new system and a new offensive system. And he talked about it could be a complicated system. And I really don't think that you hear baseball coaches, talk that, like football, basketball, they obviously have different systems. Like what was it like? How would you describe sort of going from where you were to the system that he had, and how different is it now with the, the kind of stuff that you guys do?
I think for Coach Link, his system was just a foundation of how he expected baseball to be played. And I think we fit that mold really well, and he saw that, and he took advantage of that. So that could be like more motion on the bases and just how we approach our at-bats and stuff like that. And that kind of set the foundation for most of us with the new coaches. We had that foundation, and it really isn't that much different. It's just the verbiage that's being used. But the big difference from this year is kind of the freedom that we're allowed to play with. It's not really being stuck to a system. And I think that's the only real difference from that. It's still the game of baseball. You still got to score more runs than the other team. But other than that, Coach Link really expected it to be done a certain way, and we bought into that.
Could you tell, because, again, like he always talked about sort of his pre-scouting and the way that they would attack hitters and vice versa. Like, was there a difference facing Florida State and having him over there compared to facing some other teams and coaches that you faced throughout the season?
I jokingly told our pitching coach this fall that's the toughest fall I've had, because I've had Coach Ristano call the pitches against me for 4 falls now. And
right.
I mean, you don't want to think about that tendencies, but it kind of just felt like a fall ball game with Coach Ristano calling the pitches at some point.
Well, you guys fared pretty well,
Yeah.
Even if it was fall, but especially from a long ball situation, you guys fared pretty well last weekend.
We did. And like I said, it's just the familiarity might have been an advantage to us.
How much, again, I realize it's one series, but it is Florida State, and there is that connection that how much did it mean to you guys to be able to win that series last weekend?
It meant a lot. And it was kind of one of those things. It was nothing personal, but they were kind of standing in the way of the goals that we had, because where they're at in their season, they're kind of just trying to play the spoiler. And that's nothing to do with the coaching staff or anything. It's just where they're at in their season, where we're at in our season. And if we want to play postseason ball, we had to win that series. And that's kind of the approach we took to that.
And that, I would imagine, because it is May now. And as people who follow college baseball know, May is an important month. This is where it's on now. And you've got a couple conference series left. You're sitting in pretty good position in your division in the conference. And of course, the ACC tournament coming up. I imagine that there has to be a different kind of focus every time you guys take the field right now with the NCAA tournament in mind.
Yeah, it definitely does. And we kind of, Coach Robbins mentioned earlier in the year, we used all our mulligans. At this point of the year, every at bat counts, every game counts, every pitch counts. And that's kind of the approach that we have to take going throughout this year.
We've talked a little bit about Link, Jarrett. We haven't talked as much about your new coach, Sean Stifler, other than you said, there's maybe a little bit more freedom to do what you do. Like what's maybe something that people wouldn't know about Coach Stifler that you take note of maybe on a daily basis?
Something that's really stood out to me, and it's just his want and intensity around the baseball field. He's a super intense guy. He loves being blue collar. Like, it's kind of a different coach than I've been around, and I kind of buy into that. I'm kind of the same person, so him and I get along pretty well. But another thing that stands out is he really cares about us as people. Like, he comes up and asks us, like, tries to be a non-baseball coach at times. He tries to connect with us personally, as opposed to just being the head honcho.
Sure. Now, I'm curious, you've kind of been not maybe even kind of, you've been a baseball magnet this year. Like you've been hit by pitch 26 times after being hit 30 times in your 4 years previously combined coming into this season. So I'm curious, did you just wake up one day and decide that you were willing to wear the baseball a little bit, or like where did all this come from this year?
Well, part of it's Coach Stifler. That's kind of one of the main goals of our culture is if they're going to pitch inside, we're not going to move our feet. And buying into that and knowing where the holes in my swing are is people are going to attack me in hard. And so if I don't give up that ground like I have in the previous years, that's going to increase my chance to touch first base. And I mean, I'll take it. I love that part of the game. I love being on first and threatening. So I'm not going to get out of the way anytime soon.
What's the best or the worst bruise, I guess, that you've got out of this whole thing?
Oh, just from this season? There's a couple that have hit my hammy just right and my quad, and it gives me a little bit of a dead leg, and it doesn't matter how much adrenaline I got. It takes a couple days to go away.
Well, I mean, the game that stands out is obviously the St. Joe's game where you're hit 4 times, and then the 4th time the bases are loaded. It's the 9th inning, and it's a tie game, and it's a walk-off hit by pitch. Had you ever had a walk-off hit by pitch before in your life?
I have not, and I've never been hit that many times in my life. But it was kind of funny going. The pitcher was missing up and in the entire time, and then as I was standing on the front steps, like one of my teammates we kind of expected me to get hit that at bat and to walk it off, and then bases got loaded. I'm like, this game's going to be over here soon, and then it hit me.
Are you aware of where you are, like in terms of the record books and all that kind of stuff right now?
I know I'm 11 away from tying all time, and I think I'm leading right now for the season.
And the guy who holds the Notre Dame record, Brett Lilly,
106.
Yeah, that's right. And he literally had a strategy, like getting to see his games. He was more, like your typical pesky, leadoff type guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's where, he would hit up at the top of the order. But he had, like based on what the count was, he would move around in the box, and he was, very, very willing, to, sounds like the same kind of attitude that you had. Like, do you have a specific strategy, or is it just as simple as you said before? Don't move your feet, and if it comes, it comes.
Early in a count, I feel that way, but as soon as I get to 2 strikes, I try to take the decision making of the umpire out of it. I'm gonna either swing and get on, or I get on the dish. And if they want to try and pitch inside, they don't really have a lot of space to do that. So that's the only real adjustment I have to try to kind of scare them away from throwing inside.
All right, we'll see. I mean, I imagine the pace that you're on right now, there's not many weekends you go without being hit, probably at least twice, are there?
No, there's not. At the beginning of the year, I was on pace for I was 2 a game. But
I was going to say it slowed down there for a little while, but it picked back up again, I think. Yep. So when you look at this thing now, again, with the NCAA tournament set to begin here in about a month, Memorial Day weekend, conference tournaments and all that stuff, and Selection Monday is really just around the corner. As a 5th-year guy, what would it mean to you to be back in the NCAA tournament again?
I mean, that's why we came back. That's why I came back. It's an expectation, but you also know it's not a given. That's just the season wouldn't be a disappointment if that doesn't happen, but that's kind of how the goal of all of us 5th years is for that to be the next step in this season.
Absolutely. All right. Now you started off, you didn't want to get nostalgic. Can you give me one Omaha memory, one memory from the College World Series?
Texas, that first game, just the 3 outfielders getting together after we secured the final out, doing our side bump that we do after every game, and realizing that we just won a game in the World Series.
That's a pretty good one. How did it feel hitting a home run in Omaha against Texas A&M?
That was That's also another one, but we lost that game. But
yeah, that's true. Did your body go, like, did your arms go numb? Did your body go numb? Anything, like any of those kind of out of body experiences when you hit that?
I didn't even, yeah, I just kind of, because it was a new reliever and he throws a ball the first pitch, and then I just kind of, I blacked out that entire moment. I don't even remember hitting the ball. I don't remember running the bases. I didn't realize where the pitch was or what the pitch was until I saw it on video. So that is one of those blackout moments that I wouldn't trade for the world.
All right. Awesome. Brooks Coetzee from the Notre Dame baseball team. Good luck against NC State this weekend. And of course, good luck the rest of the season. We'll hopefully see you guys in the NCAA tournament here in about a month.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Absolutely. Take care.
You too.
So that's Brooks Coetzee from the Notre Dame baseball team. And they are out there right now getting ready to take on North Carolina State tonight. And I believe that game is on ACC Network as well. So if you want to watch a little bit of Notre Dame baseball, you can definitely do that. Thanks for joining us on today's show. We will be back tomorrow. Remember, 5 o'clock on Friday means rapid fire. Jesse and Vince and I will be here. Smash the like button on your way out. If you haven't already, hit it. And of course, subscribe, rate, and leave us a review on your podcast platform. Thanks again, and we will talk to you tomorrow. IB Nation Sports Talk.